In my opinion, the Margherita pizza is the best pizza out there. I'm going to make a play off of the Margherita pizza using the air fryer, and I'm going to try cook it 3 different ways. I'm going to make the dough first. I'm going to mix this pack of yeast into a cup of warm water and about a tablespoon of sugar. And I set this water at about 102 degrees. I mix about 2¼ cups to 2½ cups of all-purpose flour and then 1 teaspoon of salt. While I wait for the yeast to grow, I peel the garlic. I use about 7 cloves of garlic. 2/3 of it go in the sauce, and then about 1/3 of it I sprinkle on top of the pizza. So with the yeast grown, I dump it into the middle of the flour and then mix it up. I drizzle oil in another bowl and then I put the dough in it. Normally I'll cover it with a damp cloth, but since I want to record it growing, I just use this saran wrap. While the dough was rising, I went ahead and started making the sauce. I began by sauteing the garlic. Then I added whole Roma tomatoes. So I normally boil these and peel them first, but I saw a video where someone just put them in the pot and cooked them, and then they pulled out the peels, and it seemed fairly easy, so I want to give this a try. While these were cooking, I added in some fresh basil. I then took the potato masher and started mashing the tomatoes, getting the juices out of them. There was a couple times when I was mashing the tomatoes that the tomato juice shot out of the pan and almost hit me. So if you're going to do this method, just be a little careful. After about 8 minutes, the tomatoes were really soft and easy to mash. So the peels and that hard inner part of the tomato does come out fairly easy, but it also takes out some of my garlic and basil. I think I'll just stick to boiling the tomatoes instead. I mix in this onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper blend, and then let the sauce reduce for about 10 minutes. Okay, so the dough has about tripled in size, so I'm going to take it out the bowl and cut it into a couple pieces. So I don't have a pizza zone small enough to fit in the air fryer, so I use the bottom of this cheesecake pan as my pizza pan. This first pizza that I'm making uses half of the dough that I made, and it's a little on the thick side. I like my pizzas to have a nice crust with a little chew in the dough. I have a feeling if I put all the toppings on the pizza and try to cook it, that the dough is going to be too doughy. So I put it in the air fryer without the toppings at 430 for 5 minutes. And the dough looks okay, but definitely too thick for a margherita pizza. I went ahead and put the toppings on, so I put my tomato sauce on, the mozzarella, and then fresh basil from my garden. Now I know you normally put the basil on after it's cooked as a garnish, but I wanted to put it on while I was cooking. Also, it dawned on me after I put the cheese on that I should put the basil under the cheese because the air fryer fan might blow it off the pizza. With all the toppings on, I put it back in the air fryer for about 5 minutes. Despite the crust being so thick, this pizza came out really good. I wish the crust was a little bit more like crispier or baked, but this is just a 430-degree air fryer, and I can't really compare it to like an 800-degree oven. The pizza I just made used half of the amount of dough. I'm going to try the same thing again, but this time I'm only going to use about a quarter of the amount of dough. I did bake this dough for about 3 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put the toppings on. However, this time I'm going to put the extra garlic on and the basil on before I put the cheese on. And this time around, I did cut the cheese into thinner slices. I cooked this one in the air fryer for about 5.5 minutes at 430 degrees. And this one came out really good. It had a good balance between the amount of crust, the amount of cheese, the amount of sauce and basil, just everything went well together. So my third and final one is very similar to the previous one I just made. The only difference is I'm not pre-cooking the dough. And as you can see, the crust is much more pliable where you can even fold it in half. So out of the three, I like the second one much better. Having that thin crust that was cooked for a few minutes beforehand and having thinner sliced cheese, it really balanced out the entire pizza. This was the first time I made homemade pizza in an air fryer, and overall, they came out pretty good.